What's going on there, bench warmers? It is time for another Center of Attention. It's 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away officially from the start of the NFL regular season. We said we are bringing Center of Attention back, and I'm back with another Center of Attention. It's great because the Olympics have been able to kind of hold us over through this point. I haven't had to pay attention to how bad the Rockies are. I haven't tried to fake my way into being a Yankees fan over the last few weeks because I've been able to pay attention to this. And I know that there's been a lot of events, and the swimming has been awesome, the gymnastics. Everything. But this is my favorite time of the Olympics. This is the sport that I coach. I now have a more vested interest because I do coach in the freestyle and Greco wrestling seasons for the high school level here, but we have Olympic wrestling back and a couple big stories. Enrit Corey is one of, I think she's a 20-year-old going for an Olympic medal. She'll be the youngest medalist in USA wrestling history. So talk about women's wrestling becoming a recognized sport across the country, and now they're representing really well out in the world stage. And then the main story, and what I hope that we kind of kick things off for the actual episode with, is Majain Lopez out of Cuba. I know that the Cuban system is very shady. We talked about it with Yoel Romero. You don't really know how old these guys are. You don't know what they're doing in that Cuban system. They get taken from the time they're like 10. They get stolen from their houses and they grow up in these different athletic facilities. But Lopez is now officially the most decorated Olympian of all time. He passed Michael Phelps with his fifth gold medal in Greco-Roman wrestling, and now he retired today. He's 41 years old. Absolutely demolished the field. He took out a former national runner-up in Adam Kuhn from the U.S. early on in the tournament, and then continued to steamroll from there and had the iconic moment. I think it's one of the greatest traditions when you retire from a sport, but when you retire from the sport of wrestling, you leave your shoes in the center of the mat, similar to leaving your gloves in the center of the octagon for UFC fighters, and Majain Lopez earns his retirement as the greatest Olympian of all time. So that's going to do it for the Center of Attention. We got plenty more of Olympics discussion, and we have our first division preview coming up later on in the episode. But now it's time for 192 of the Far End of the Bench podcast with Jimmy Pallotto and Niko Bryant.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
It's the greatest thing about that start of the show is I get to talk about whatever I want, because if I didn't have that, we'd probably still talk a little bit about wrestling because you pay attention to wrestling with the UFC, like just the guys that have crossed over. But it's a beautiful time. I'm enjoying it now. There's nothing live going on, so I'm watching the recordings of Olympic wrestling in the background. I'm also doing a mobile podcast from a different undisclosed location because I'm trying to be all secretive on my last day of summer. Episode 192 of the Far End of the Bench podcast. If you can't tell, I'm like Deadpool at the end of that movie. It was like, I think I'm just nervous of dying. I'm nervous of going back to school, so I'm just going to keep talking, and hopefully I'm just going to bring in Niko. Save me from myself.
I've sat on my butt working since 7 a.m. this morning until literally 10 minutes before this, so I will be doing this show standing at my standing desk. So, because that's how much how freaking long of a day it's been, and need to move around a little bit to get things going. But yeah, look, we have football talk finally for those people waiting finally for it. It's finally back. Preseason is already. Game one has gone by. The first round of preseason games are this weekend for everybody else. And obviously, Olympics are still the main topic of the sports world and what's going on. So we have lots of stuff to talk
about. Before I just want to say, like, give us a chance to kind of wrap up the story that I talked about in Center of Attention. But Lopez and the 5-time gold medalist at the single event, that is so much dedication when you think about it. That's over 20 years where you're basically gearing yourself up for every fourth year. I know he has world championships and other tournaments in between, but when you see Michael Phelps do it for as long as he did, we can think about like Allison Felix in the track and field, as long as she was there, where you qualify for 4 or 5 Olympics in a row. That's a feat in and of itself. To go and win a gold medal every single time that you go there, that is just
different breed. Different breed.
Yeah, different breed. And I was kind of talking about it. I'm watching before we started, and I'm like, man, if this guy grabs a hold of me, there ain't nothing I can do about it. These Greco-Roman wrestlers are absolutely insane with their. You could see it just in the way Like he's grabbing 286-pound man that's 5 inches taller. He's wrestling some 6'7" giant out of South Korea, and he grabs onto him, and you could see the guy's eyes just go. I relate it back to Ace Ventura. It's like, that's no snowflake. That's no snowflake.
Look, the natural freak of nature to be 41 years old and to still be the best in the world, like that is a elite group of athletes. Yeah, obviously, look, people could say what they want about the Olympics not being the best athletes in the world, that some athletes aren't there for basketball or football or whatever it may be. Anyone at the peak of their career at 41 years old, cough, cough, LeBron James and Tom Brady, and now the rest are from Cuba. It is a rarefied air to be doing that at that age, plain and simple. No matter what the event, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what sport you're playing, it is a feat of itself. That's for sure.
And this is where I'm going to toot my own horn. Wrestling is one of the most physically and mentally put together taxing sports that you could possibly do, and to commit yourself to doing that in the Olympics for 5 times in a row. We almost saw it. Burroughs wouldn't have had 5 gold medals, but he almost made his. This would have been his 4th team in a row, and he's considered probably one of the greatest American wrestlers of all time. So Lopez out of Cuba deserves a lot of credit. And then we're going to move forward into the other areas of the Olympics that deserve a lot of credit. And we finally got the track opened up. We got solidification on who's the fastest man and woman in the world in the 100 meter dash. And let's start with the women because they went first. And I was surprised mainly because none of the Jamaican sprinters were there. Elaine Thompson wasn't in the race, and I don't know what happened to the other one. So it was already like, oh, okay, at least Sha'Carri doesn't have to go up against her Jamaican boogeyman. And then I believe it's Julian Alfred from St. Lucia. I'm a world geography teacher, and I never heard of St. Lucia. I teach the Pacific Ocean and try and go into all those different little islands. That wasn't even in the packet that I could find for my students. Like St. Lucia wins their first Olympic medal, and it's a gold in the 100 meter dash, and she won it like walking away. Sha'Carri wasn't even in the picture. There was no photo finish. She could have done the Usain Bolt, but I think honestly she was just that was the cool part about seeing such a small country have such a historic moment, is that she didn't know what her reaction. She was more happy that Sha'Carri ran such a good race behind her. It's like, oh, you did so good coming in second to me. I know I dusted you by about a second and a half, and that's a million years in track time. But that was a great race, and it kicked off the sprinting, which was a great event in and of itself.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, look, when you have these small stories of smaller countries creating a name for themselves and within gold medals and putting themselves on the map. And look, I know Jamaica has had a history of being very, very prevalent in the fast dashes in the track and field, but you can't sit here and tell me that Usain Bolt didn't breed this new level of life into that event for Jamaica. And you look at the woman that won the 100 meter dash for the ladies there in Paris. The country of St. Lucia, that now there's going to be young female athletes that are going to look up to her to try to match what she's doing and try to bring that up to now then be a prevalent force in the track and field world too. Like there's little effects that don't seem like little things like that people don't see on the outside that have long-term effects. Like you can't sit here and tell me that guys like Shaun White, who took over the snowboarding world, didn't put America on top and make it one of the most obviously dominant forces in the ski and snowboard world. Same thing goes for Michael Phelps. Phelps was one of the first that right there with Rowdy Gaines that just put the U.S. on the map of being the country to beat, not just the individuals, but the country to beat every single time they're in the pool, on the track, whatever it may be, and having that effect. This can go a long way for the country of St. Lucia and being able to build that program, build that sort of repertoire in the biggest stage in the world.
And it's going to be a little bit of a spoiler alert, but it wasn't the only medal that St. Lucia won at the games, and it's not the only medal that Alfred won as well. Americans go 2-3. Sha'Carri Richardson took the silver, and I believe it's Marissa Jefferson took third, the bronze. They ran respectively, so the gold medal time was 10.72. Richardson ran a 10.87, and Jefferson ran a 10.92.
Wow.
So
Wow.
these women are hauling ass. And that means that the people who didn't podium are running sub 11 100-meter dashes.
I'm not a math guy. What is the 100-meter as opposed to the 40-yard? Just putting that in.
The 100-meter is longer.
Longer? Okay, so that's
100-meter
obviously it's
to 40-yard.
Just do 100-meter in yards measurement, and then we can do the math. Because I think
it would be a 4:19. So if you ran a 10:06 100-meter dash, that equates to a 4:19 40-yard dash.
So yeah, that's faster than anyone in the NFL that these women just did. That's that.
Yeah.
Just to think about, put that in perspective. Everyone knows Tyreek Hill and obviously Devin Prime and Hester and this company were the fastest men on the planet. Thinking like, oh, these guys can't be touched. These women are outpacing them in terms of obviously match.
Alfred's time, I just converted that her time specifically 10:72 is a 4:47. So they're running as fast as the linebackers and some of the faster specialists and tight ends. Like they're moving.
Insane, absolutely insane that they're moving that fast.
They are moving, and the men were moving too. And I guess we could do the same thing that we did for the men. We'll do that towards the end. Fred Curley, I do want to give him a shout out because he is a former world champion. He was the guy that Noah Lyles had to upset in the world championships last summer to be able to kind of solidify himself as this quest for the double. He is still on that quest. Noah Lyles did win the gold medal by 5 thousandths of a second.
And that race specifically, he was like last place until the last, I think, 20 minutes.
Oh, a terrible race. That's probably one of the worst. And I think he's probably said it. He's like, that's probably the worst way that he could have ran that race of all time. But everybody in that race was that fat. Like everybody was there to win a gold medal. Nobody had eyes against. I think Jacobs did end up qualifying the gold medalist from Tokyo. He was in the very far lane, but nobody was looking over at him like they used to look at Bolt. There was no Usain Bolt. Like there was nobody to chase. Everybody was just running their fastest time. And the fact that he was able to, that's just pure speed. The makeup in between, there's a lot of technique. There's a ton of technique. It's not just people that are born fast that are gold medalists in the 100-meter sprint. There's a ton of technique, but that was just pure speed to be able to go. I had a terrible start. I didn't really get up to all my acceleration. I just got to go be fast. And he went and he was fast. And when you talk like Noah Lyles does, you have to be able to back it up. And it's faster than anybody can physically blink is the distance between him and the silver medal. But he did it.
He did. And like I said, he backs it up and he absolutely did it. And like I said, it's so crazy. Like the amount of milliseconds, the amount of time that for literally having gold around your neck and not medaling. It is on this stage, and it goes to show how dominant Usain Bolt was, because Usain Bolt was that much faster than everybody. If you look at the pictures of him in, I think it was 2008, 2012, 2016. I don't think he did 2020, but 2016 was the last games. Like, he was 3 full paces ahead of everybody. 3 full paces ahead of everybody. And Noah Lyles, all crews in the world, fastest man in the world, very easily. He had to come back from nothing to win by literally the hair on your head, like that much. That if you look at the photo finish, it was that close of literally between first, second, third, and even non-medaling. It's such a millisecond sport, and to be able to make up that amount of time in that short distance. I know I've given him shit in the past for his comments about basketball and everything else.
That's what he wants you to do.
But he is the fastest man in the world. So I'm if you weren't the fastest man in the world, I'd argue with you, and I'd say you're wrong. But how can I argue with you being literally the fastest man in the world? So all kudos to Noah Lyles and what he did and what he's done and what he's going to continue to do the rest of these Olympics.
There's the picture of the photo finish.
Insane. Literally like a hair, not even.
They said it's the chest. So the Jamaican guy has more of his neck hunched over, and Lyles has more of his chest, I believe is what they were saying.
So that makes it so that I guess I never knew that. I thought it was just the first part of the body.
I thought they would go by feet, and his foot does technically hit past the line, but it is the first body part that goes. And Noah Lyles, being a little bit shorter than the Jamaican sprinter, and I don't know, I can at least give him credit with his Thompson. He's a little bit shorter than him, and that little bit less height gave him more of like it's almost the difference of hitting a line drive home run and guy hitting a moonshot. So he just had a little bit more distance on it.
Yeah, like I said, that's something that I never knew. Because now that I think back, you look at those runs, the guys do pop their chest out a little bit more. They get their head with their chest out, with their shoulders forward to try to get that literally millisecond thing. So that's good to know. But yeah, it's insane photo finish. It's literally something that you rarely will ever see. Not rarely, but it's that rare you see that type of finish with these kind of races, especially 1 through 3 to especially 4 through however many races there were. It was that close, and that just shows how even the whole playing field was.
He ran a 9.79, which I did the conversion. A 9.79 is a 4.08 40-yard dash. He ran a 9.79, and the Olympic record, world record set by Usain Bolt is 9.58. So it's a whole 0.2 of a second slower. And if we do 9.58 converted to a 40-yard dash, Usain Bolt ran a 3.99. Get this man in some pads and put him on the outside, for God's sake.
Insane. Absolutely.
Al Davis is rolling over in his grave. Like, nobody signed Usain Bolt to an
Dude, I would have. I think there probably were teams that called. There probably was somebody that just said it once because they've tried to do it in the past where the NFL guys have tried to compete in the track races and then got blown out. I would take a wild guess that there's at least 1 or 2 calls. Maybe not gold medalists and like at least a couple that are like, you know what, this guy's still faster than everything we have on our roster. Let's give him a shot.
Yeah, the sprinting, it would be like the Bengals don't have any scouts anyways, but wouldn't that be poetic justice if they did send one of their 2 scouts to just hang out at the Olympics, watch the sprinting? It's like, no, I would send my guy. I want to go watch. Let's go see if we can offer Kovacs a deal and get him on our D line.
The only position where that they really fall under the umbrella of making it to would be kick returner. And if you give one of these dudes just a kick returning option, be like, you know what, you get paid this amount of money. You're like, I'm sorry, what? And it's like, yeah, you get paid this amount of money. All you gotta do is back there. You gotta be able to catch a ball. That's the only other thing. Catch a ball and just run. And if you're able to do that,
don't get hit.
And look, I don't mean to jump around, but especially with these new kickoff rules, you'd be the most deadliest player on the field, and you'd make teams kick it out of the end zone and start at the 30-yard line as opposed to giving you the ball, basically.
Yeah, it's always a conversation that comes up because it happened. It does happen, and it is happening currently. Gable Steveson is at training camp. I don't pay attention to the Bills enough to know whether or not he's going to be there. I'll probably look into it when we do our East preview. We're doing the North today when we get to the NFL. Then we get to the women's 200 meter, which was another. I watched that race earlier today. We're pre-recording this one. We've been live for the last couple of weeks. This one's pre-recorded because it is the home weekend in PLL, which means that Niko's the go-to guy since he's the one that's already here and doesn't have to travel anywhere. So we're recording this a little bit early so that we have enough time to do what we need to do later on. Gabby Thomas wins the gold medal in the 200. Julia Alfred wins the silver. So she takes 2 medals back to St. Lucia. Time winning the gold medal time for the 200 meter dash for the women, 21.83. At the time of this recording, we don't have a finish for the men's final yet. But that was first woman to win the gold medal in the 200 meter since Allison Felix back in, I believe it was 2012.
And Allison Felix is obviously one of the GOATs in terms of greatest female Olympians of all time, for sure.
I think she has the most. She's the most medals by
non-swimmer, probably.
Yeah,
grade non-swimmer.
Most medals by a track athlete in American history.
Yeah. Obviously, Ledecky has fucking shattered that record with the most in terms of women.
The swimmers can, like the sprinters can do the 100 and the 200, but you saw it with Alfred, and they said it like you're just so tired. Like you built, Apparently, you could swim 1,500 meters and then be ready to go the next day to swim in another 800-meter final
It's
and
still
not lose
dominant.
any speed. Yeah, no, I actually swam faster. My back loosened up a little bit more after that first swim, so I'm ready.
To the average person, yes, but when you look at the level of Katie Ledecky and how fucking goated she is, it probably is just like, it's just another day in the pool. Just another
Her
day.
back is probably, if she doesn't get in the water, her back probably is like, she has gills back there. I know she has gills.
She is. I know sounds a little weird when I say this, but there are bodies that are built for swimming. That like her body,
Michael Phelps and
her are specifically molded. They train. They mold themselves. Track athletes probably the same exact thing, but you specifically mold your body, train and eat and do all this. How you circle around your life so that you're more perform better in an Olympic environment or obviously a world environment, whatever it may be, World Games. And Ledecky and Phelps and like I said, Lyles too, Shikari, like they specifically train their body around certain how they eat, how they manage their weight, how they lose weight, how they need to gain weight, depending on speed or whatever it may be. And it's absolutely insane because you look at these. Specifically, Katie Ledecky. You look at her; she looks like your average, just high school nerd that teaches it, that loves English, and is just a very non-stressful, stays off in the world. I'm just giving you a hard time, Jimmy. But she, like I said, she is a world class athlete. If you look at her, and honestly, if you look at her and you see the person she is and how humble she is, you just think she's an average person, and she's literally the most decorated Olympian, nearly of women's Olympian of all time, and the GOAT in terms of women's swimming, and it's not even close, frankly.
No, and another GOAT that we saw, I believe Biles ended up taking the last of her events. She took a silver, which I believe was the floor routine. So I don't know if she's going to try and qualify for the next Olympics or if she's just going to off and
that's the question a lot of people are saying, because obviously it being here plays into that factor. It absolutely does, because Ledecky said it too. She was like, I don't know where we'll be in 24, but you could hear the love that the local Paris or Frenchmen or whatever, French men and women had for when Marchand for France swimming was in the water. Or I was watching. We'll talk about basketball here in a second. I was watching the French national team play, and they were losing their minds. You look at them booing the shit out of Embiid because he wasn't playing for their country. Like it's little things like that we could have in 4 years. We will have in 4 years. So like imagine the pool and imagine the venue wise. Obviously, Europe is a different fucking animal in itself, and how they root on things, especially with
I want to stop that narrative because just because we don't kill each other every time that there's a sporting event / burn down a city block doesn't mean that we don't love our sports just as much.
We do.
They tie their sports into their street. They tie their sports into their street gangs because it's all neighborhood sports, so they're all tied into like actual gang members.
There isn't as much. There is some hatred, but there isn't as much of killer mentality as in our games.
We're next to no other country except Canada and Mexico.
This is also true. So it is different in that aspect. But I will say, like I said, it's a different atmosphere, and especially having the games here in 28, like Ledecky, Simone, I already said, but she'd be 31 years old, a little wild. Obviously, you look at the basketball players. A lot of guys have already thought about it. You don't have to travel. You can play in your backyard. Very easy. Like it is a real conversation that if you qualify, might as well put on one for your own country. And I know that's a big talking point for a lot of the Olympians this year, and especially guys, men and women that are thinking about 4 years down the road.
I didn't even take that into consideration. That's probably going to be a motivating factor. We might see some people even that didn't qualify. I'm thinking my mind's still, and I have to correct myself. I think I've been saying the wrong name. Amit Taylor. Amit Taylor. I'm watching her finals match right now. She's going against, a North Korean. Okay. She's going to win a gold medal against a North Korean. I know that because that's already happened. And by the way, by the time this podcast happens, we will know who is in the final because the semifinals for the 200-meter men's is Wednesday. So we're recording this Tuesday. This will be released on, I guess I can release it. We'll see. I might release it Wednesday or Thursday, but it'll be released afterwards. So do you believe that Noah Lyles will pull off the double?
I will say no because of how close it was. And then this isn't me being my basketball bias, okay? I will say no because it wasn't a dominating performance. It's very difficult to do that twice, in my opinion. So, and we saw obviously the women's 100-meter only got silver. I think he'll medal. I just don't know if that slow of a start, if that happens again, he will be on the medal stand, unfortunately. So I will lean towards no, but hopeful yes.
He is in a good semifinal. He doesn't have any of the. He doesn't really have a Jamaican. He doesn't have a Jamaican in his semifinal.
Well, I
He's
don't think it
got.
really matters with who you have in your time. It's more about the time that you
Well, you
set.
got. If you're the top two, if you win your top two in your heat, you qualify for the final automatically.
I didn't.
Otherwise, it goes based on
I
the
was gonna say
fastest other person.
because swimming obviously is different that way. It's just the
Yeah.
timing. It doesn't matter how you
No,
get
this
there.
is it goes based on the first two that win, and then it goes based on time out of all the semifinals. So you may take third in your semifinal, but somebody took third faster than you did, and you're not in. You're just out. So I want to say yes because I want to say that America dominates again, even though we haven't really dominated all that much in sprinting in the last few years. We could say it, and it'll be true for at least the next four. We got a double in the 100-meter, or at men's and women, and at men's 100-meter and 200-meter, and we have 200-meter gold and bronze, 100-meter silver and bronze. Like this is a really good one, and I'm gonna do a quick Google search so I know his name. But I do know that there was another world record set before we get into basketball, and then I'll let Niko go. In the 1500-meter, Cole Hawker set a new world record and also upset Kerr Ingebrigtsen and is the world champion. Kerr is from Great Britain. We also took bronze in that event as well. So middle distance, cleaning up a little bit, but that was a new world record that was set. And Kerr has been talked about ever since the last Olympics as the guy that was never going to lose in this event. And America is now world champions and Olympic champions in the 1500-meter final. So wanted to mention that before we get into basketball. Any other sports that you want to touch on before we go full into the quarterfinals?
I did watch a little bit of the water polo. The women's team is going into the medal round, so that was watched a little bit of that today. That was exciting. The U.S. women's volleyball unfortunately lost the Swiss, so they got eliminated. They will not be medaling. I think obviously those that were watched the 08, 2012 Olympics were obviously familiar with Misty May Trainer or I forgot. There was a duo that was incredible with the women's side, and they dominated basically 4 years in a row. So they unfortunately will not be medaling. Men's volleyball, I did watch the match yesterday. They did come out on top, so hopefully they can get themselves into medal contention. But yeah, we can jump into basketball now because we are into the medal rounds, and as we're recording this Tuesday, I watched the quarterfinals today, all 4 quarterfinals. Very interesting quarterfinals. We can start off with the one I had not the most intrigue.
I was gonna say let's go ahead. I want to give you a chance because we haven't been able to talk about him since the season's been over. But Nikola Jokic is really good at basketball, huh?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Doesn't matter if it's international or domestic. He's just really good.
7 a.m. this morning, Mountain Standard Time, 9 a.m. for those on the East Coast. Nikola Jokic erased a 24-point lead to lead Serbia.
But it was against a country that doesn't play basketball, right? It's like China that doesn't actually have a basketball history.
China doesn't actually have a decent basketball program because of Yao Ming. People forget, but Australia is a team that contends for a medal every single 4 years. It doesn't matter who they have out there. They're hard nosed. They play well. They're well coached, and obviously Patty Mills and the Predator and Josh Giddey over there were leading that team very, very well. Had a outstanding lead that looked like it would not be evaporated. And then Nikola Jokic does Nikola Jokic things and drops 27, 14, and 8, I believe it was, with 2 blocks and one mat and 3 steals. And one of those blocks and 2 of those steals were in overtime to get Serbia in to the medal round. Let's not forget who's on this roster, okay? There are two, I believe there's two, maybe there's three, I might be wrong. There's two real solidified rotation players on the Serbian roster. Nikola Jokic and Nikola Jovic for the Miami Heat, the other Nikola Jovic. I think Bogdanovic did not play this Olympics. I may be wrong. I obviously am only focused on number 15 out there. But the fact that this team is in the medal round is absolutely insane, plain and simple. Because, look, do I give them a chance to beat the U.S.? Probably not. They play them in the semifinals. This U.S. team I'll get to here in a moment is very dominant. It'll be very, very tough even for Jokic to overcome it. But the fact that they will be competing for a bronze medal at minimum is absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. And the best player in the world, I really want him to get that triple-double because there's only only three players in Olympic history have ever had a triple-double on the world stage and on the Olympic stage. And I'm hoping Jokic can be the next one in line because he's had those soundboard doubles over and over again that all of us in Denver know very, very well. But the fact he was able to overcome that and get his team into the medal round is absolutely insane. Because you look at the other countries, Greece, we talked so much about. Greece loses to Germany. Giannis doesn't get his team to the medal round. Luka Doncic, big time player, obviously didn't qualify for the Olympics. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, your runner up to the MVP. Everyone that said
the guy that should have won it, right? According to Shaq,
didn't make it to the medal round. We'll talk about Canada here in a moment. He is on a different pedestal. Joel Embiid, your previous MVP, decided to compete for a different country.
He's trophy hunting.
Trophy hunting over here, okay? And then Nikola Jokic over here is getting his team to a medal round with a chance to medal for the first time in men's basketball history. So I'm very excited to see Serbia compete. Like I said, I don't give them much of a chance against Team USA. They should get their shit broken into, but I would love to see Jokic get that triple-double and then at least try to get into the bronze, get a bronze medal. Next couple games, obviously I talked about Germany beating Greece.
Before we move on, can I get Nikola Jokic is the best shooter in Serbia since Gavrilo Princip. The guy who started World War I, assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand. He was also Serbian.
Yeah, I'll let you.
The nerds in the back are chuckling.
Yeah, the nerds in the back are chuckling. So going back to it. So now I'll talk about Germany beating Greece. Greece is obviously eliminated. Germany is a team I said before the Olympics. I would not be surprised if they were in the gold medal game / in the bronze medal game because of how deep they are, how well coached they are. Obviously, the Dirk ties with the Wagners and Dennis Schroeder leading the group. A team is very well rounded. So they should compete very well against the home country in France, who beat Canada. Canada never got off to a right foot. They struggled all Olympic long. Shea struggled to lead the team. RJ Barrett really was the best player for them this entire Olympics for them. So they struggled against France's size. Gobert didn't really get much run at all. So it was Wembanyama with a couple other wings out there for them. And France looks very, very good. I've said it all along. I believe it'll be France versus the U.S. for the gold medal, and I would not be surprised if that was the final we got, and probably be the most intriguing final we'll get by far and away. So that's how good France is. Canada, man, Jamal Murray had a tough Olympic showing.
Has he signed that contract yet?
Oh man,
he should.
The memes were flying. Is all I'm going to say because Jamal Murray without Nikola Jokic on his team. Let's just say that the man was a non-existent factor. He was coming off the bench. He got benched for Dylan Brooks. Yes, that Dylan Brooks of all people. People were saying the first thing Jamal Murray needs to do as he gets off the plane is to sign the contract, and I would second that because
if you don't, Calvin Booth is going to have another press conference and call you out for not playing well internationally too.
Exactly, and your name will start popping up in trade rumors if this team doesn't perform well. Unfortunately, that's the fact there is because 1-5 ain't going anywhere. And Jamal Murray, I love Jamal. He's brought a lot of great moments to my life, but he's as expendable as the next person, unfortunately. And him having this poor of a showing, I think it affected him coming off the bench possibly. I think it affected him having a different role. But let's see. Hopefully, maybe the good thing is he didn't come out injured. He's healthy, and now he gets a little bit more time to rest before the next season comes along. So hopefully this was just a fluke, and he can come back better than ever is all I'm going to say. But it was not a good showing at all for Jamal Murray and a Canada team that had medal aspirations. Like I said, you had Shea, Jamal, RJ Barrett. That's a roster that in reality you got to think that can compete with the Frances of the world, with the U.S., with Germany's, and they fell short.
Yeah, and it's when you're there and the lights are shining. I mean, they just never in any of the rounds and any of the preliminary games they look like an all-star team. What everybody likes to say about the U.S., where they don't play enough with each other and they don't have any chemistry. Canada had absolutely zero chemistry. This ain't hockey. You're not up there. You can't play. One guy gets the ball and be good with that. And if Wemby blocks a guy, you can't be shaking your head like, what the hell? I saw that SGA clip. Like, no, go get the ball. Go grab the ball after it gets blocked. Don't just
shit fucking cracked right back at him was very funny. I had a good laugh out of it.
Wembanyama's watching France in a couple years or in the next Olympics when he's a little bit older and has some more experience in the NBA. I'm very nervous as to what France is going to look like.
I'm serious when I say this, and this is going to be. I may get fucking crucified for saying this because San Antonio was one of the worst teams in the league last year. I would not be surprised to see the Spurs in the play-in tournament in the West, is all I'm going to say. I would not be surprised adding Chris Paul and obviously Wembanyama taking a big leap in year 2. I would not be surprised to see the Spurs not the bottom 2 teams of the West and at least fighting for a chance to make the playoffs because Wemby is literally an alien. Like that, I know that's his nickname. He's literally an alien. He's literally all that in a box of cookies. And the France has not only one Eiffel Tower, they have 3 Eiffel Towers. They have the actual Eiffel Tower. They have Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year, so-called Defensive Player of the Year, and they have this alien. Then they have this alien over there that just steps on the floor and intimidates everybody, including myself, watching him out there. It should be an interesting semifinal between Germany and France. That's for sure.
It's a conflict between Germany and France on French soil.
And they do not.
Germany is invading France. It has not gone well in the past. Let's see if France has an answer here. Germany's up 2-0, 3-4, 5-0 if we want to count the Napoleonic Wars. So France has to respond. Otherwise, this can't be considered a rivalry if one side never wins. I hope this is the episode that pops off in France.
France and Germany do have a massive soccer rivalry as well, so that adds to it, and now being basketball adds to it. But France should have the upper hand very easily in this matchup. I will say that Germany team is out, like I said, the Wagners and Schroeder leading that team. They are very talented and with a lot of NBA talent on it, but they should not test up to the alien Defensive Player of the Year and the rest of the French national team.
On the women's side for the quarterfinals, those matchups will be taking place on Wednesday, so after we record, but the matchups are as such. They'll start off with Serbia and Australia. Then we'll have Spain and Belgium. Germany will take on France, so men's and women's. It's France versus Germany. And then Nigeria has the dubious honor of taking on the United States in their quarterfinal matchup. Have you watched? I have turned on a few games, but I'm not obviously not a basketball expert.
They've really dominated. Asia Wilson obviously is probably the best female basketball athlete in the world right now, and she has been dominating up and down the floor. The size the U.S. has over every single team is outstanding. Obviously, Griner and the male Brianna Stewart. Not many people on earth can guard those two, let alone have them both be on the same team. So they are dominating. I do want to touch. I didn't touch on the U.S. game. There wasn't much to touch on for the men's side. They dominated by 50 points. Brazil kind of just laid down. So there wasn't. I'm not going to go into too much detail. This obviously the next 2 games are going to be where the biggest scrutiny and the biggest what's going to happen will happen. Biggest 2 tests for the U.S. team, men's and women's teams. So we'll see. Embiid did play better today. Devin Booker and Anthony Edwards have been dominant, really, really great from the 2-guard position in back-to-back games. So that's crazy to see. I haven't seen a prime Kevin Durant performance yet. I'll be expecting it these next 2 rounds. LeBron has been here and there, very, very good. Steph Curry's kind of have been very quiet as well. But like I said, they face a Serbia team they've already beaten twice in the last 2 weeks. Let's not forget they beat them in the pool play and then beat them in exhibition 2 weeks ago as well. So team they're very familiar with. Obviously, only one player on the other end. They should dominate and should coast their way into another gold medal opportunity against probably France is what I would guess. But yeah, both the men and women's basketball teams should have no problems getting there. If they do, it will be one of the biggest upsets in basketball Olympic history. Is all I'm going to say. Is all I'll say. It will be if Jokic can pull it off. It'll be one of the biggest upsets. If the women fall short of the gold medal, it would be another one of the biggest upsets as well. It will be something to talk about if they don't get to that point. So, and before we move on from Olympics, one last thing I want to say. I know I went in on the 3-on-3 last year. I need to correct my mistakes. Apparently, FIBA has made it basically nearly impossible for NBA players to play in these 3-on-3 because of qualifications and the fact that you have to have the team together for a certain amount of competitions. And that, for that matter, obviously NBA players don't do that. They have their own season to worry about, so they don't play in those for a reason. The women also ended up getting bronze. So they after the slow start, they were able to get it together and medal. So that's very good for them. I will say this was an interesting little news take, and I know I'm getting a little off topic, but still circles around the Olympics. The Big Three with Ice Cube has already come out and said that they want the Olympic winning 3x3 men's team to come play the All-Star team for the Big Three. For those that don't know what the Big Three is basically 40-year-old former NBA players that just play 3-on-3 during the summer and play once a weekend. So if that happens, if they do play against another, that'd be interesting to see. But I also would love to see in 28 have some of those big three guys come over and play in the 3-on-3 tournament because I think they'd still be better than what I saw. I think they'd be better than not winning a single game. So hopefully that could happen in 2028 for us because obviously I have an interest in the 3x3 game. So, but yeah, shout out to the women getting the bronze medal there, Haley Van Lith and the rest of those women over there in 3x3, getting them another medal in back-to-back Olympics.
Oh my! I know Mario Chalmers. He was an all-star.
There's a handful of guys that us basketball nerds will just love.
I had no idea.
Joe Johnson, a bucket. Like Jeff Teague has a podcast now. Bucket. Steven Jackson's over there. I'm pretty sure Matt Barnes plays every once in a while. They have a handful of dudes that are bucket getters over there that could still play.
I would pay hard-earned money to watch Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson in the Big Three Olympics. It would be the scene from it's Michael Irvin versus Adam Sandler in The Longest Yard. Wah! Did I get you? No, that was clean. Don't worry about it. Good D.
Let's move on. Like I said, that is the biggest men's 3-on-3 I guess league in the U.S. So I know it's all retired players and it's a lot of like street ball players, but if we want to not have this poor of a showing at home in 2028, I would consider it. That's all I'm going to say. I would consider
it. They're going to figure something out because they're not going to let that stand. That's even if it's just 3-on-3, that's still basketball.
And the fact that FIBA threw in those rules so that the U.S. wouldn't dominate again is very, very funny to me still because they made a qualification, so it makes sense. It made sense why they didn't.
It makes sense why they didn't because there's people also saying like, why not just send the best college players out there? Well, the college players aren't doing any of those 3-on-3 competitions either.
So yeah,
go around to the intramurals. Go to GCU intramurals and see if you can pick up a squad there.
Yeah, might as well.
We didn't have any. Well, we did, but I don't think they'd go to Gunnison for. They're not scouting the intramurals at Gunnison. I was there. So anybody that was also there with me.
The 3x3 runs at GCU were fun. Is all I'm going to say. I enjoyed those thoroughly.
Some of my least favorite experiences with pickup basketball games I played in my life. Let's move forward, and the next thing we're going to be talking about, it is PLL time. We've got to talk. Well, we're starting here. Let's talk about homecoming weekend. Well, actually, it wasn't home. That was 2 weeks ago. I'm all out of sorts. We were in Maryland last week. Maryland. We played Denver, and it was not the outcome we were looking for. And I'm not. I know that I'm probably the one that should say it because I don't have any tie to the team. But Is the playoff chances officially done? Like
Not dead.
mathematically?
It's on life alert is all I'll say. It's not dead. We have to win our games. We have to have either the Outlaws or the Red or the Outlaws or Chaos to lose out as well. If both of those happen, we have to make up the goal differential also, and then we're in the playoffs. So it's not mathematically over, but it's very very close to being over.
Hey, good news. You play the other worst team in the league this weekend.
Yep, and they're already actually eliminated. So
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sucks. Last weekend sucks. We had weather delay for 4 hours before they called the game. After halfway through the fourth quarter, or maybe beginning 1 minute or 2 minutes into the fourth quarter, so that sucked. Flights problems. So I got paid. Tell you what, I had to do a
Earn
lot
your
of work
money.
this week. Earned my money. Earned my paycheck this weekend. But yeah, it was cool. It's always cool playing in Baltimore with the Johns Hopkins, which is like I say, it's the Rose Bowl of college lacrosse. It is the premier stadium when you talk about the history of Hopkins lacrosse and who's come through there, who's played there. So it was very cool playing there, being around the facilities, very very fun. Shitty weekend in terms of winning and losing, obviously, and all the shit I had to deal with, but. Yeah, it's been a rough season thus far. Hopefully, we can close out the season the right way these last 2 weeks because man, it's been brutal. That's all I'm gonna say. It's been brutal.
Things change on a dime because you think about it. Last year, the Woods were basically in the spot where the Outlaws were. Where at the beginning of the season there was hopes, but you had to prove it, and then you did. The Outlaws were the worst team in the league, and they're by no means like they're not going to turn themselves around and be in Champ Series and like compete for anything like that. But they could. They're in the spot to do so.
They're in a spot where they could be a top four finish, having 2 games this weekend and Utah 1 game. So there's a lot of chance for movement around. Obviously, War Dogs lost. Won the championship in 2022. Obviously, 2023 lose in the PLL championship, make it all the way to the final, lose. Obviously, make it to the Champion Series finals, lose to the Cannons. And this year, they're the bottom feeder team as of right now. Already the first eliminated team. So it shows how good this league is and how good players and how good the teams are. That there can be this much difference in 1 year's time, less than 1 year's time. So we'll see how things turn out for us, and obviously see how things turn out for the War Dogs these last 2 weeks. But definitely sucks. I'll tell you that much. It definitely sucks. It can be a little bit more taxing when you have to show up to work and you're not winning every week. So, but that and like I said, this can lead to great things in the future and. Like I said, I feel like we have a good locker room, a good core to build around, and we go from there. But yeah, it's definitely been a rough go around this summer as opposed to last summer.
Yeah. I think too with last weekend, Maryland deserves a shout out. They got both their games and their homecoming weekend, and they needed it. With they're trying to make themselves in a better spot, so they took care of business at home.
Huge. Absolutely huge. And that like I said, they're a dangerous team. They're a very dangerous team. Unfortunately, Tucker Dordovic, the rookie of the year last year, broke his jaw, so he will not be playing for them. They did, as we're recording this, the morning of, they traded for Ryan Conrad from the War Dogs, great midfielder, lots of talent there. So they're already making moves to try to replace him. But yeah, the Whips are one of the few teams, them and the Atlas, the only 2 teams this year to go 2-0 on their home weekend. So it's huge. Absolutely huge. Put them right in the playoff picture, and they seem to be getting hot the right exact time. Like I said, they're the only team in the entire PLL to have more than 1 championship. All right, they won the first 2 years, so they could be a team that you do not want to see in Gillette Stadium or even going forward at Hofstra in Long Island or the final in Philly.
And coming up this weekend, they kick things off. It's the Denver homecoming weekend at Peter Barton Stadium down at DU. They will be kicking things off against the Outlaws, and then Redwoods will be the second game Friday night. So that'll be taking place at 8:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Both those games on ESPN Plus. I believe I'm going to be in attendance, hopefully, or I'll at least be like prowling around that area. I'll go down and check out the convention, if nothing else, like what they had set up last year, because that's the cool thing about when these things roll through town. But if you're out in Denver, if you have the ability, I don't know if there's even tickets left available, but I went last year and it was a hell of an event, and the league is just expanding and growing. So I would recommend it if you're anywhere near Peter Barton, check it out, especially this weekend. And then on Saturday, the two games, New York will be taking on Utah, and then the final game of the weekend, Carolina and the host team, Denver, will be going at it
And,
on.
and I know I don't work for the Denver team, but I love obviously having a chance to play at home and not have to travel this weekend. But it's the first time in 3 years since the Denver Outlaws are playing a home game, so it's kind of cool. One of the most storied franchises, not only in pro lacrosse but in Denver. Obviously, like they have the history of they have 3 championships, same amount as the Avs, same amount as the Denver Broncos. So yeah, it's obviously a different sport. It's not as big as the other 2 sports, but it's still one of the premier teams across in terms of history and what good they've been around for so long. So it's very exciting to see. I'm excited to see the turnout, because obviously the turnout was great last year. Turnout was great the year before when I was in tennis as a fan. So seeing all the Outlaw stuff back in Denver should be very exciting.
I think there's going to be a ton of it because it's all going to get dusted off. I know a lot of kids that are still playing. I guess it's junior Mammoth mostly now. I'm sure the junior Outlaws teams will start coming back now that they have the brand back. That's going to do it for the PLL section, and now it's time for some football. Football time. Hall of Fame game did happen, and I will because we didn't give it a chance last week. We didn't mention any of the guys who made it. So the Hall of Fame class.
Randy Gradishar, Dwight Freeney,
Randy Gradishar
Devin Hester were the main 3. I forgot the others, but those were the
Mongo McMichael was one of them. I know, and that was his. I wish would have happened a little bit sooner. He's obviously dealing with ALS, so they had the 85 Bears go out and celebrate with him. He's in his hospice care, so that was kind of unfortunate, but it's awesome that he got inducted.
Recognized and it was there with his with former teammates and family. So, like I said, it can be a tough weekend for people to travel in. Obviously, people that are older. So I was happy to see that he was able to do it at home with friends and family, and obviously a bunch of former teammates all there around him. So that was cool to see.
Dwight Freeney, Randy Gradishar, Devin Hester, Andre Johnson, Steve McMichael, Julius Peppers, and Patrick Willis are the 7 being enshrined.
That's a hell of a class. That is a hell of a class for us nerds, football nerds. That is a hell of a class of
basketball nerds too. You remember Julius Peppers tearing up the court at North Carolina, don't you?
Yeah,
I've seen those highlights.
Stud, absolute stud.
I've seen those highlights, and those highlights are nasty.
One of the many people that have tried to cross over, and one of the few that were as good as he was. That's for sure. Is all I'm going to say.
And he played D-line. He played D-line after he played basketball. It wasn't Antonio Gates not wanting contact. He was like, nah, I'm 6'7". I'm going to go sack the quarterback.
Him and Freeney were probably the two of the most feared pass rushers of their time. And then you look at the rest of the class. Devin Hester is the most feared kick returner of all time. And frankly, it's not even close. And then you look at the rest of the class. Gradishar, obviously, long time coming. Very cool to see. Andre Johnson, he didn't have a lot of postseason success. But if you look at the numbers and how good he was every single year, he was still a number 1, number 2 receiver every single year he played. And he had Matt Schaub and fucking David Carr and just random motherfuckers throwing him the ball every week. Okay, Case Keenum, just dudes that came and went out of the league, and he was still that good. It's very, and look, I'm not comparing him to Calvin Johnson because I think Calvin Johnson had a little bit more of an edge, was a little bit better, and obviously Calvin Johnson had Matthew Stafford, but they were on teams that weren't very good for a very long time and just were studs, just were absolute studs that you knew that whoever you had to put against him, you had to put a number 1 guy on him, and you had to put a safety over the top because that's how good he was. So, and then, like I said, Patrick Willis, a dude that was just feared. It was Ray Lewis and it was Patrick Willis with a 1-2 middle linebacker punch across the league that you see 52 over there in red or in purple. You're hoping that they misread the play and not.
I'm not going over the middle.
Yeah, you hope they misread the play.
As a tight end, you're like, I'm going to the outside. I'm reading everything as cover 3. Outside's open. I'm not running to the inside.
Exactly. So it was a hell of a Hall of Fame class. Obviously, now we're starting to get into the years of players that you and I grew up watching. So it is cool to see.
Yeah, and there's already debates on whether or not Eli should be a first ballot Hall of Famer when he becomes eligible
He'll be
next
a Hall of
season.
Famer. He'll be a Hall of Famer.
No, I
love
said
first
yes,
ballot. He'll be
Hall of Famer,
yeah,
but
yeah.
first ballot, first ballot.
Yeah.
That's a
It
conversation
won't.
we have next summer.
It won't take the 7 seconds that Peyton took. Okay, be like, is he Hall of Famer? Yep. All right, next. It won't take that long. It'll take a little bit longer than how long
Yeah.
it took for Peyton.
Make sure you get the big hunk of bronze because we got to fit Peyton's forehead onto his Hall of Fame bust. No, Hall of Fame was awesome. Hall of Fame game was awesome. We're looking at divisions and we're starting in the North. We're going to look at AFC and NFC North. I have it written down NFC first. Then obviously we'll get to talk about my Bengals and Mr. Slim Shiesty coming up a little bit later on. But for the 2023 season, the Lions, reigning NFC North champions, had a huge season, finished 12-5. The Packers 9-8, finished second. Vikings and Bears both finished at 7-10. The top two teams have the same coach, same quarterback, a lot of the same things that are in place. The Vikings replacing Kirk Cousins with JJ McCarthy / Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold currently, because he's the number 1 listed quarterback in the initial depth chart. So that's a little
Yeah,
interesting.
and we have Mr. Caleb Williams for the Chicago Bears already yelling at his teammates, "Hey, pick up the locker room. We got to start acting like a championship organization."
I mean,
Before you finish that, I'm gonna smudge it. I'm gonna smudge your nail polish if you finish that. Don't say that. You do not tell me to pick up my locker room.
I know, but at some point you need a leader, and I understand. Look, I saw a perfect way to look at this. If he was picking up the trash himself and said, "Hey, we need to do this together," different story. If it's a, "Hey, I'm sitting here painting my nails, go do it," then we're in a different, way different. But I do not hate my quarterback trying to demand excellence and trying to demand to command a locker room and lead by example is all I'm going to say. I would like to think that he was cleaning stuff up also and be like, "Hey, we cannot be doing this. I'm going to clean this stuff up. You guys clean that stuff up. Let's do this together. Let's start building things the right way." I look at it that way differently. But if it's a, "Hey, you lesser folk do that," then we're an entirely different story. But I would like to think that it was the first half of the story, so I had no problem with it. I know Amani Toomer lost his fucking mind for no reason over it. I know people are going to take it out of perspective, but I will say, with how shitty the Bears have been, I don't think it's a bad thing to be demanding a better work ethic and better everything around that locker room, including my own team. And I'll speak for my team when we talk about them more later on. I would expect my young guys to try to build a better example, because what has gone in the past, what has gone specifically, especially the Bears too, it should not fly. Because of like I said, the Bears are going to be a hard knocks team throughout the regular season. I have seen the already hype videos of the Bears' greatness and the Chicago Tundra and all that. That has been nowhere to be seen our entire lifetimes, except 1 year where they got their ass kicked by the Colts in the Super Bowl in 2006. They have been irrelevant since then. Entirely irrelevant. The only thing they've been notable talking about is Cody Parkey kicking the upright and double doinking. Okay, so as far as I'm aware, good. If I'm a Bears fan, I'd be totally fine with it. Good. This team sucks. It has sucked. I need something new. I need something fresh. So you can hate on Caleb Williams all you want about the pain nails and trying to demand a locker room. I see it as good if I'm a Bears fan. I see it as nothing but good.
I would say, even as a Bears fan, if I'm the biggest Caleb Williams apologist, I would need him to play in a football game before. Knowing what it's like in the locker room, you got to be. Nobody knows what you're going to be. Yeah, you're drafted number 1 overall. You're a former Heisman Trophy winner. Ooh la la, that's great. What have you done? There are plenty of Heisman Trophy winners that came in with a lot of hype that didn't do anything. So, am I going to sit like you didn't play in the Hall of Fame game? I know that's not your choice, but I don't see you sitting outside of Eberflus' office like, "Coach, please let me play." Like, you got to put something there. You can't just show up and start demanding stuff. You're not the savior. You're not a winner, because if you look back at your college career, you're not a winner.
No.
So whether he was doing it the right way or not, yeah, I get it. He's got to set some kind of example. Your example should start on the field, and then people will start maybe gravitating towards you. If Keenan Allen does something like this, people are going to listen. because Keenan Allen is one of the best players
Well,
at his position.
the only argument I'll have against that is Keenan Allen probably would have not let that get out. That's that story of him saying that. So I would say that it probably wasn't that big of a deal in the locker room, if I were to guess. It was more of a bigger deal outside the locker room based upon how the story came out and who's pissed about it and who's not pissed about it.
I don't, yeah, and the stories that we're hearing now are all being floated by somebody. That's just the way that it works because there's people that are working, Niko, I think, does a good job of it with his job where he's around and he would be able to say a lot more than he does, but he doesn't, and he's not trying to use it as clickbait and not trying to use it as anything like that. I get quickly off topic. The story that recently came out about CU and somebody having two offensive linemen getting in a fist fight in the locker room where they bloodied each other's lip and like all this stuff coming out. And I was like, there's no way that happened. There's no way that happened. And B, you're reporting that without giving your source. So I don't believe you.
No,
You're just.
There are certain, and look, we've both been in locker rooms where we've played, and now I've been in a locker room where I'm part of the staff, and not a coaching staff, but part of the team staff, where I hear and see a lot of things that I will not repeat in any world. Well, I repeat to anybody but myself and to my coaching staff. But like I said, that's just stuff like that. That if it got out like that, I think we're overplaying it to a bigger deal than what it is. So, like I said, if you're a Bears fan, yeah, would you like your quarterback to play on the field and show it that way? Probably, but it's not a end-all, be-all to his career being a fucking shit show because of this one little thing before he even touched the field.
Yeah, before we get to because we'll talk about the bottom two and then we'll talk about the top two. So, of the Bears and Vikings, who do you have more? Do you have more faith that the Vikings with Darnold will be able to kind of keep what they were doing with Kirk because they were doing good until he popped his Achilles? Or do you think that the Bears, with all the additions that they made, the two top 10 overall draft picks this year, the way that their last two seasons have been set up, do you have more faith in them being able to push past who's going to not finish last next year?
I think Minnesota will be the worst team in this division. I do not like. Whereas it may say, Caleb Williams is the third best quarterback in this division. And what have we said about the AFC West and other divisions? If you have a top half of the division quarterback, and frankly, Jared Goff may be on the back half of his career now after playing for a minute, he could easily be a top two guy if he has that hot of a rookie season. Obviously, I don't think that'll happen right off the bat, but he could easily come into that conversation of being the best quarterback in the division within 2 to 3 years if all the hype comes up to be. I cannot say that about JJ McCarthy. I need JJ McCarthy because look, even JJ McCarthy at his best, I don't think will be better than Jared Goff. I don't think will be, and I know he probably won't be better than Jordan Love at his best. I think I'm very confident in saying that. So even if Minnesota does roll McCarthy out there, or after Darnold has a struggle this season, I don't think Justin Jefferson will be the focal point of that offense. Everyone knows it. Hawkinson will still be a focal point too. And they brought in Aaron Jones from Green Bay. I think they're all getting older, and I just don't trust this O-line. And I think they lost defensive pieces where I think the Bears and the Vikings have similar records, and I think the lead goes to
I think it's fair to say that the Vikings have a lot more to overcome. I just think that they were in a much better place than where the Bears were. So I like Kevin O'Connell a lot more than I like Matty Eberflus. So if I'm looking at those two, I would probably say that it's going to be tough. It's going to be tight, but I do think that the Vikings, I would give them a little bit more faith that they would be able to overcome. For the top half of the division, I still think that it's going to be the Packers and the Lions. The question becomes now, the Packers have financially committed to Jordan Love, and I guess if I'm a Packers fan, is 9 games enough to truly be in love? Like, does it take a little bit more time to get there, or is this going to be what we expect? And I would also have in the back of my mind, how much longer are we going to let Matt LaFleur be just that close? Because he's been just that close with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. So if he doesn't get it done, when do you start putting the timetable on him? And for the Lions, you were really, really close. But I think that the moments were too big for the team. And I think that Dan Campbell as much as his gut helped him last season, there were some times where you could see like he's trying to be too much the aggressive guy and not just being him. When he's him and he coaches the game, like the Lions can go out and just demolish everybody if they want to. They can put it on people in a hurry. When Dan Campbell is letting the team be the team, when he tries to be the dominant one or be the favorite or play a certain way, that's when the Lions get in trouble. So there's a lot of questions I think on both sides. But I guess for the Packers, do you trust in Jordan Love? I know we talked about his contract last week. Do you think that he's going to be the catalyst to get Green Bay to finish and win the division, get the North back in their hands?
This is this battle between Detroit and Green Bay for the top of the division. I think everyone can clearly say that will be the 1-2. However it may be. I think we will figure out fraud watch. I think we will figure out who the fraud watch. Will it be the Packers and Jordan Love really doesn't have all that in him, and you invested a lot of money into to a future project that hasn't come to fruition? And the Detroit Lions, you've shown that you are a damn good football team, right? Can you put it together all together to be successful in playoffs, be successful in your division for a second straight year that has been dominated by one team for the last 25 years since the number 4 is put on green and yellow. Plain and simple, because there's not been a team that I believe. I mean, you may be able to put me wrong in this, but I believe there hasn't been a team that has won back-to-back division titles, not named the Green Bay Packers, in a very, very long time.
In that division specifically, I don't think so.
Specifically, no. It has been a very long time since the team has been able to do a back-to-back. So can Detroit do that? Obviously, they hosted a playoff game last year, hosted 2 playoff games last year. And if you're Detroit, you need to put it together now again. New faces, young pieces coming in, rookies. Can they build upon that? Can Hutchinson take the next step? Can Jahmyr Gibbs be an everyday down back? Can Jared Goff still rely on Amon-Ra? Rely on some of these other young receivers. Now they lost Reynolds, the number 2 option, who's now with the Broncos here in Denver. But they need to continually to put together a good season this year for me to have faith in them, because I'm still, unfortunately, I hate to use this term, but the Pat McAfee show did this perfectly. It's the same old Lions. Can they get over the hump, get to an NFC Championship, get to a Super Bowl opportunity? Can they do that? That's the big question, because last year they failed to do that when everything was on line with a big chance to make a name for themselves. Can they put it together for 2 years in a row while the Packers got better, plain and simple, with adding Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love coming into year 2, defensive pieces across the board too? Can they put it together for 2 years in a row? That remains to be seen. I am going to lean the Lions putting together again and still being the number 1 team, with the Packers following number 2. But I don't think it'll be as big of a gap as last year. I think the Packers still make the playoffs. I think it comes down to week 18 game where the Lions have to come out on top and they win the division.
Yeah, I see them possibly playing a division championship game at the end of the regular season just to see who wins, and they possibly could be playing for a division title and first round bye, because I do think that those 2 teams have the chance to be really good in the NFC.
How weak the NFC is, to be honest with you, like both teams should be in the playoffs. And I would be very.
Did the Packers make the playoffs last year?
They were the last seed. Remember, they upset the Packers. Or was it the Packers? The Packers upset the Cowboys the first round? I forgot who it was. But they did go to the second weekend, though. I remember that specifically.
Yeah, so they already had 2. The division wasn't terrible last year when they had 2 playoff teams. And looking over at the AFC North, which is a good transition to that side too, my team was the very last place team with a backup quarterback, and we finished 9-8. That was a damn competitive division.
It always is.
Yeah, it's a knockout, drag down fight. The only times that it's not are when the 2 teams in Ohio forget how to play football. But good thing that hasn't happened in the last few years. I can't really speak for the people up north. Doug and I have a little bit of a friendly rivalry going with college football being out and everything now. But when I think about the AFC North and I think about the Bengals, I've never experienced something like this. I'll be 100% honest. I listened to Kay Adams, who was just on the Bengals podcast that I listened to. I listened to other national media members, and I've never been a Bengals fan where people be like, we got the quarterback, then the team's just going to be all right. Like if Burrow stays healthy, we're going to be good all year. Normally it's like they might be able to sneak up on people and come out of nowhere for a wild card. No, right now it's if Joe Burrow is healthy, where does this team go in the grand scheme of the AFC? Possibly 1, 2, or 3 seed. Now, there's other stuff that need to go well. Um, there's injuries news. Injuries were terrible last season, and they have to be a lot better for it to work out. Hubbard, I know, was dealing with a lot of things. Hendrickson, towards the end of last season, got a little disgruntled. Um, I will give you this from what I listened to, and I would say the local media that I listen to in Cincinnati is just as not used to it as I am. Everybody is in love with being at the Bengals facility. Whether you're T. Higgins playing on a franchise tag and kind of upset that you don't have a contract, or guys that just got here, like that's a lot better of a culture than what we're talking about just 4 years ago when we started this podcast, where I kept bringing up the reusing jock straps and bringing your own Gatorade from the gas station. So people are enjoying playing here, and I hope that I get a full season of a healthy Cincinnati Bengals team to see what they can actually do, because it was so young the last time that they went on their run. I want to see this team. I think that this team can be dangerous. So where I definitely have a lot more bias of a opinion, everybody should know that I'm the first one that's ready for the shoe to drop. Like, I'm waiting for the Bengals to go back to being 3-14 like that. So I'm going to relish in this, and I do think that it's a legitimate thing to think about. If Cincinnati can stay healthy, they are definitely in contention to win this division and possibly be a top 3 seed in the AFC.
Absolutely. The one caveat and the one thing that I think will be a big difference for Bengals fans going forward, and especially seeing this team play this year, is the loss of weapons offensively and the bulk in adding big meat up in front, right?
Biggest fucking tackles of all time.
Exactly. So the Bengals have decided, and probably this is definitely not probably, it is the right move to start to de-invest in the fast guys, the athletic guys, all those, and just build the offensive line, because Joe Burrow, or you think that Joe Burrow, similar to Patrick Mahomes, similar to Peyton and Tom Brady when they were at their prime, can do what they did and make the role players, make the guys that are rookies, guys that just come in, they're unsung heroes, be the star players they are. And that's what you got to hope for, because, look, you have Jamar, obviously. You lose Mixon. I think Boyd is still –
Boyd is in Tennessee.
He's in Tennessee, so he's gone. So you're going to have to rely on a third receiver. T. Higgins, that's still up in the air, whether he'll be on the roster for the whole entire season. He may get moved eventually at some point. Maybe you keep him, who knows?
Yeah, that will depend on how healthy the team stays and where the record is. But because if they are successful, T said that, like, if there's a chance this year, he wants to ride it out. If this is the last, he's ready for a last dance in Cincinnati, which I would love that if we would have been able to work it out, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. And I hope that this is a really successful last season. That is something. Go ahead.
And like I said, that is that now that's moved on with, that both sides have figured that out. I think that helps T. Higgins and the Burrow relationship, being like, let's say one last run, let's see what we can do, and obviously, hopefully, you get paid more money next year. That's what you're supposed to do when you're a good team. You get better, you get good players, like middle, not your star players, but middle level players across your team, paid in worse places. That's just the way things happen when you're a good team across all sports. So the big question is, can Joe Burrow make those lower level players, those young guys, those guys that are just coming in the roster, be the Edelmans, be the Wes Welkers, be the and be the Rashee Rices, be the Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and can Burrow do that? That's the biggest question, because looking forward to next year, obviously this year is a priority, but looking forward to next year, this division isn't getting any easier. As much shit as I want to give the Steelers and Russell Wilson being the starting quarterback there, they have not had a losing.
He's going to win that job.
They have not. I would not be surprised, Jimmy. You and I both know.
No, because Wilson hasn't been taking first-team reps in a week because he's got a strained calf.
Either way, that team has not had a losing season in 25 years. Okay,
correct.
So whether whoever the hell's starting at quarterback, they will still beat up on teams that they should, and at least get around 500. I would be very surprised if this team, if it's Russell Wilson at quarterback, there's a chance it could be. But you have Mike Tomlin his first losing season ever. But the team will still hover around 500. And if that's the worst team in your division, it's still a you have to win the games you need to. You have to win the games against the bad teams like the Broncos a week 8, a week 17. You have to win the games where you cannot let those lapses in judgment against bad teams, which the Bengals have had in the past, which you know of, where they've lost to bad teams. And when you play in this good division with the Baltimore Ravens, obviously winners of the division, number one seed in the AFC last year, added Derrick Henry, added a couple pieces here and there, still will probably be a very, very good football team. And the Cleveland Browns being the wild card in all this, if Deshaun Watson can play a full healthy season, a team that just added Jerry Jeudy, a team that is very heavily rumored to be in the Brandon Ayuk sweepstakes along with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it's not going to get any much easier at all, is all I'm going to say. So the big thing, if you're a Bengals fan, including you, Jimmy, is can Burrow develop these secondary weapons? Because if you can't, then you're going to falter. If you are able to, which I think he'll be able to, I believe he will be able to, because of what I've seen from him in the past, if he's able to build a running game and without obviously Mixon there being there anymore, may be helpful having a younger guy back there. If you're able to make a third option, I'm pretty sure there's a rookie out there. I think it's Burton.
Oh, I got three names that everybody's gonna. If this thing goes successfully, if this thing goes successfully, there are three names that everybody will know of because they will be the next target after Jamar Chase. And it's Tanner Hudson, the tight end that came on really strong at the end of last year with Browning. It is Andre Yosivas, who was a fifth-round pick out of Princeton 2 years ago. That's your Edelman-esque type. He's a little bit bigger, so he could even be in line to replace as the secondary receiver and be on the opposite side of Jamar. And then you also have Charlie Jones, who is the true Edelman. He was the punt returner last year. He's the guy that they're talking about just put on 8 pounds of muscle and is still under 200 pounds. But these are the guys they have really good rookie seasons or first years with the team. And now they've had a full season of development and they know what they need to work on. And if Burrow is what we think that he is, and if this thing goes successfully, those are the three names that I will be singing the praises of. So I want to make sure I get it out there now. Hudson, Andre Yosivas, and Charlie Jones will be the X factors of why the Bengals are what they are.
And he is still like the best quarterback in this division on his best day. Lamar Jackson obviously was the best quarterback in this division due to injuries, and he's still going to compete with Burrow with being the best quarterback in this division. But like I said, it's who can do more with less now, because we're not Burrow's not on his rookie contract anymore. Lamar isn't either, and now that these guys got paid, now you have to see where you can get elsewise, because like I said, the Steelers are still going to be tough to beat every single year. It doesn't matter who they have at quarterback, who they have across their team. They're still a damn good defense over there. And Cleveland obviously is making a lot of moves, and if they have a healthy Deshaun Watson, we saw what a healthy Deshaun Watson did in the playoffs 3-4 years ago now. So it's been a while, but if he's healthy with good weapons around him, which they're trying to do, that could be a team that's very, very tough to beat too. So that it does not – if I were to guess right now, if I were to put money on it right now of how I think this division will play out, I am going to say the Ravens 1, Bengals 2. I'll put Steelers 3, Browns 4. I think the Browns will not be able to get Deshaun Watson healthy. I think the Bengals are still – like I said, Burrow coming off an injury will be a little bit tougher season. I think the Ravens can still win a regular season title. Long-term, winning a Super Bowl, I would still put the Bengals as the best option. I just think that the Ravens can be a better regular season team with the schedule they have, as opposed to the Bengals having a little bit tougher road to getting Burrow healthy and having a few faults in the step in terms of secondary options.
It's one of the last years that I can be really optimistic going into things, and I'm trying to take as much advantage of it as possible. And hopefully by week 17, it's not something totally different, because I'm planning on going to that game in Cincinnati when the Broncos play them, going out there to visit Jordan and meet Doug and talk to our boys out there at Ohio Sports. I see the winner of this division. Everybody knows who I'm going to pick as the winner because I can't have it any other way. But I see the winner of this division ending with a record of 12-5.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's going to be better than that. I don't think that there's going to be a team in this division, because you have to play 6 games against really, really good teams. And then the Bengals play the Chiefs week 5. The Ravens play the Chiefs early on. Everybody's going to play another contender, and there will be teams that are surprises that you thought were cupcakes on your schedule. Like by week 17, the Broncos might be a tougher matchup than what they look
Probably
like now.
not. Probably not. But we may be in the Travis Hunter sweepstakes by then, so maybe not. But other teams, not so much.
I will gladly push you to that point. That's fine.
That's
I
a
will
game
gladly go out there and
that's a
celebrate.
game that we could cost you a home playoff game. Is all I'm going to say. That's a game where we won't be playing for anything other than making your road in the playoffs a little bit more difficult. Or if you don't win your division, make your life a little bit more difficult in the wild card spot. That's all we're hoping for over here, okay? Because at that point in the season, we're just probably going to be dead in the rights and just trying to play season ruiner.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't think that they're competing for a playoff spot, but I just
No.
think that they'll be I think week 17 Broncos will be a tougher out than. Remember, the Broncos got 70 put on them week 5 last year, and then were decent by the end of the season.
It's a game where if you overlook us, and try to look toward week 18 matchup against, I think it's the Ravens week 18 for you guys or whoever it is. If you overlook us, it could bite you in the ass if you do.
The Rat Turds, I believe, are the week after. I wrote it down in my calendar that way. Rat Turds, Pittsburgh, Massage Envy out there in Cleveland. Those are. I don't ever refer to any of those mascots. Those 3 teams can go kick rocks and die for all I care.
All I'm going to say is I would love nothing more than the Steelers' downfall to happen with Russell Wilson because
me too.
I've heard way too much.
I will jump in that passenger seat next to you on that Russell Wilson hate train, and we will ride that thing so far. Yeah, I will run that thing till the wheels come off.
I've heard way too many Pittsburgh Steelers fans try to hype up Russ, and I was right there with you 2 years ago, and then them saying how we treat him poorly, how he's going to be so much happier, and this, that, the other thing. I would love nothing more than to just not be good.
He's doing the same. It's rinse and repeat. Put his Pittsburgh introductory press conference next to his Denver introductory press conference. The only thing that will be different is the city he mentions.
Yeah, you're not
like,
wrong.
I was talking to, I was mentioning to Ciara the other night, and Pittsburgh's just always where I wanted to be. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Denver's just a place that we've always wanted to be.
Insane. Absolutely insane. So it should be. Like I said,
go to practice.
I don't know if Tomlin has the patience for Justin Field. Is all I'm going to say. That he will just probably he feels like he can mold a veteran quarterback to just not do stupid things, which Russell Wilson did last year and the year before. So maybe that's why Russ is the starting quarterback. But like I said, Fields is a guy that he is breathing down Russ's neck every second of the fucking day. Be like, I'm here, I'm coming. It's the Michael Myers standing in the background with a knife, just waiting for him to fuck up and just be ready to take his position at any moment.
See what happens when we start talking about football. Fall just comes out because now we're talking about Halloween, and I want to start watching scary movies again. I think that's going to do it. That's a good part to leave. There's going to be more to talk about. We will have the Pick'em returning. I did finally get my first dub in last year's Pick'em, so we'll see what ends up happening this season. But that will be coming up. We'll look at another division next week. I'll choose which one that we're going to take a shot at. But other than that, Niko's got a busy weekend in front of him. I am going to be back in school, so things are changing. Summer's officially over for my fellow teachers out there. Good luck. Yeah, I'll go into it with a positive attitude because if you think everything is positive to start off with, you expect things to go wrong, but be positive when it starts off because that's the best way to go. The kids are there to learn. They're there to have fun. I'm excited for a school year. So I think I don't have anything else. You got anything else before we sign off?
Like I said, if you're in Denver and you're able to get a ticket because Friday is already sold out, come see my dumb ass on the sideline. I'm excited to be obviously at home. Denver weekend is always so much fun. Be it playing in the backyard, showing my coworkers my city, and be around people that seeing friends and family in the stands, and it's very, very fun. Obviously, I'm not a player, but this is the closest I can get to having a home field advantage. So it's very cool. Obviously, I have a bunch of my fourth grade team is going to be in attendance too. Some will be in the tunnel for walkouts, so that's very, very cool. They'll be high fiving me as I'm walking out of the tunnel, like we usually do. So I'm excited to be home, even though the season hasn't gone very well. Hopefully, these last 2 weekends can end on a high note, looking into next year. So, but yeah, I'm very excited to be home and very excited to get this good weekend off to a start. And like I said, I love the Olympics. Obviously, I love football. We love all these other sports, but we will be diving deep into more and more football and basketball. Hockey season's going to be coming up here soon too. So don't you worry for those that check out during the lacrosse portions of the show. We'll be coming out with more of that stuff very, very soon.
All right. For myself, Jimmy Pallotto, be sure to follow us at FEOTB Pod, Far End of the Bench Podcast, episode 192. My co-host, Niko Bryant. We will see you guys next week.
Peace.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.